Hello, I'm Gary Quinn, and welcome to another episode of Ready, Set, Live. My guest today is William Keck, an author and television producer who has spent most of his life working in the entertainment world as a reporter for the National Enquirer, People Magazine, Entertainment Weekly, and USA Today. He has been Emmy-nominated as a producer for the Hallmark Channel, Discovery Channel, and NBC. In his new book, When You Step Upon a Star, his book is really a tabloid about his bad boy work throughout the history of his life in Hollywood. So, don't go away. I'll be right back with William Keck. Welcome to the show, William.
Thank you, Gary. It's so fun to talk to you.
Yes, I was so entertained by your stories the other night at Barnes & Noble. What was the catalyst? I know you'd had this book in your head for many years. And what was the catalyst to say, okay, I'm going to finally do this?
Well, I've been working on different versions of it for quite a while, for many years. But I couldn't quite find what the right theme was, what the message of it was. And then it was during COVID that I was going through everything, all the notebooks that I'd saved with every single little detail I'd copied down, license plate numbers and hospital room numbers, phone numbers of celebrities who have long left the planet, and photographs. I saved every clipping of every article I ever wrote. And I started to see that the most exciting things that were emerging were the stories that kind of gave me an upset stomach, some regret, some things that I felt I needed to apologize for. And that became the theme of the book, the cringeworthy element of my background.
So it's almost a destiny of spiritual awakening of you having this epiphany to say, I need to make amends with these things. And, everybody does things in the past that, might have affected them. But I think what a great way to put those through the book and speak to some of these people. Now, I know that when you were growing up, was there one, let's say, opportunity that you met your first celebrity and said, I want to move to Hollywood or I want to work in the entertainment business?
Oh my gosh, what a great question. Nobody has asked me that question. I love that. Well, a couple come to mind. My mom, I think, dragged me to an evening with Cary Grant. And it was what you can imagine. It was a Q&A with this legend who I really had not heard of. But when I listened to this man tell his stories of having worked with all these legends, Katharine Hepburn, and you name it, I knew that I was experiencing a very rare opportunity here, that this person was not going to be on the planet long, that he was a true legend, and that I wanted to meet more of these people. Another one that comes to mind is Joan Rivers. When I was a little boy, my grandfather told me that he had been to a concert with Joan Rivers very early in her career, her black and white years, and she had given him a kiss at the end of the concert. And I ended up having the same experience with Joan a little bit later. I told her the story, and then she gave me a kiss. So, yeah, it was these people that had been around for a long time that I knew wouldn't be around for much longer that caused this sort of desperation in me to get to Hollywood and start checking these names off my list.
No, I think that, everybody has some first connection with a celebrity, and there's an energy that they give off, which is real creative. And I'm the same way. I'm attracted to the creative world. And I think when you're in that mind space, that it feels really connected. And I had a conversation with Renee Zellweger, and she said, Gary, we're like circus people. She said, and I love the way because really it is, you do a show, you meet people quick, and then you leave. And then there's this bond that you had when you worked at all these places, meeting all of them.
Gary, who was the first celebrity you met? I'm curious to know.
I just had that Donna Douglas, the Beverly Hillbillies.
Ellie Mae Clampett.
Yes.
Where did you encounter her?
At a bank in Northern California. She was
Fabulous.
doing a promotional tour. I was training for the Olympics. I saw the ad in a newspaper. I must have been 16. And I just said, I have to go there. Something said, you have to go there. And I went. I took a taxi there. And she was signing these books. It was Home Savings. That's what it was. And she was so nice. She was dressed just like Ellie Mae with the accent.
The day she died.
And she was just lovely. And I even had a picture with her. I took my Instamatic Kodak. But yes, and then when I finally got to Hollywood, it was through swimming. Then it was Penny Marshall and Rob Reiner. And then I met everybody because I was through my swimming. So I understand how you felt, because it's like you're in this energy. You know, I was 21 and I was in a trailer with Farrah Fawcett and, all these people teaching Tom Selleck how to swim and the Dallas crew and blah, blah, blah. But it was just like, I don't know, and Tony Randall, and I hung out all day with Stephanie Powers. It's an energy that I don't think people who have witnessed that. So you have firsthand, because your first job, was that the Enquirer, or was it, what was the first job that you actually received?
Well, I just want to mention quickly, since we talked about Donna Douglas, I believe I had the last interview with her ever.
Really?
And it was actually with Jethro. It was with Max Baer Jr. together. They hadn't seen each other, I think, since the death of Buddy Ebsen. And it was a very emotional, very funny interview. It is in the book. I have a whole chapter on Max Baer and a real scandal that he was involved in. But so I also have a photo in there with my meeting of Donna Douglas and Max Baer.
I haven't got to that chapter yet, but I've read most of the book. What I was really enthralled with was that that you were sent on all these assignments that when you were a reporter for the Enquirer that were a little crazy.
A lot of crazy. I mean, take that chapter, for instance. It wasn't a sit-down interview with Jethro. We received a tip that, it was a tip from a former porn star, an actress who was very popular in the adult entertainment industry, that she had actually been sexually assaulted by Max Baer, who had been a friend of hers. So this sent me to the San Diego area. I met with this woman in her home. She told me this horrible story. I then had to contact Max Baer, who gave me the runaround for a while. I remember I had his number. I called him, and he pretended not to be Max. But it was you can't mistake Jethro's voice. Hello? Max isn't here. He's on a fishing trip. I expected the voice to say a fishing trip of the cement pond. Exactly. So I said, well, if you hear from him, and ultimately I did get a quick call with him where he denied all the accusations, but it makes for a very disturbing, also humorous and hard to believe chapter. I was sent to funerals. I was sent to crash weddings. I was sent to hospital rooms when celebrities were either giving birth or when they were in their last days. You never know what horror story
it's almost like, William, it's almost like you were a spy, or you were in character playing these roles.
Oh my gosh, absolutely, Gary. I remember one of the stories in the book, Telly Savalas, who played Kojak on TV. He was also Max, he was one of the villains in James Bond, Max Blofeld, I believe. I was sent to a cemetery, Forest Lawn Cemetery, not far from where you're broadcasting right now. And I had to report on why his grave did not have a marker. He was buried in an unmarked grave. And after making several trips to this grassy plot of land, I got really sick of making the journey. So I ended up calling on behalf of the family to find out what was up. And Forest Lawn told me that they'd had the stone for many, many months, but that the family was not getting along. So that was causing the delay. So I said, it's true. Would you please reach out to all the family members and let them know that we're going to install the stone Tuesday at 4:00. And the only person that actually showed up was Telly's brother. But we were there as well. We got some photos. And most importantly, Telly Savalas is no longer buried in an unmarked grave.
What was it like chasing around? I know you chased Britney Spears and even Elizabeth Taylor in one of your episodes. What was the most, let's say, the most craziest event that you had to do that you just said, I can't believe? I know you went to the funeral of Bionic Woman, but the most craziest was there one that topped that?
Sure. Well, I think the most tabloidy, stereotypical tabloid story would be when I was assigned to crash Dean Martin's funeral. And I had been kicked out of the cemetery. Everybody had been. It was a VIP private event. So they cleared the grounds, and I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? And I was walking the circumference of the cemetery. This was in Westwood. And there was a big cinder block wall. But I saw that one of the houses on the other side of the wall, that neighbor had a tree that extended right over the wall, right near the chapel where they were setting up the lectern, where the sign-in book was going to be. So I rented the tree for the evening. My photographer and I were up there. We waited, and then sure enough, a whole row of celebrities started coming in, including the late, great Bob Newhart, who we just lost. But Frank Sinatra was there, and Don Rickles. And I just couldn't believe that actually this worked. It just seems like a stunt that you would never believe could actually happen, and yet it did.
Now, moving into the Hallmark Channel, that was not so Enquire-ish. So that probably was more relaxed for you. It was probably a nicer reception from celebrities.
Well, I mean, to go from a place where celebrities are terrified of you to a place where celebrities know they're going to be protected, and the only controversial topics will be about their pet parenting tips and their secret recipes for cupcakes. I mean, talked about night and day. And it was refreshing because I had changed as well. 30 years ago when I was with the Enquirer, I was not the person that I am today. I was in the closet. I was secretive. I was not particularly happy with my life. And I think because of that, I was kind of causing some unhappiness for the celebrities that I loved. So cut to all these years later when I'm in a much better place. I'm honest with myself, with my friends, with my family. And I'm wanting to protect these celebrities that I worship and not cause them undue distress. I mean, instead of stepping on the stars, I think I'm shining them to make them as illustrious as they should appear.
Yes. And, you know, what's so interesting is people don't understand that celebrities are just people. It's their job. And, you know, when I travel the world and people say, oh, I can't believe you were in the photo with so-and-so, I said, yes, but they're just people. You know, people don't understand that because celebrityism is just so untouchable. They put them on such a high pedestal, but yet they're just people like you and me. I mean, that's the thing is,
you know, it's so true, Gary. I mean, I was just thinking you could go into a 7-Eleven and there could be an older gentleman there in Burbank behind the counter working there who had maybe auditioned to be Greg Brady back in the day, but he didn't get the role. So instead, Barry Williams became Greg Brady, and this other man had a different course in his life. But these are all people who just got lucky and were famous for a while. Maybe their star descended. But they go to the doctor and get physicals and cough, and they start their morning with cereal and brushing their teeth just like we do. They just happen to have been on TV or in the movies.
Yep. Who has influenced your life all these years?
Who has influenced my life all these years? Wow. Well, I mean, I guess in the acknowledgments at the end of my book, you're an author. You've acknowledged the people who have helped you get to where you are. The acknowledgments end with my parents, and I thank them for allowing me to stay up and watch all these shows that I guess they said it could rot my brain if I watched too much television. But cut to all these years later, and I have a book out that never would have happened if I hadn't stayed up late to watch Dallas and Dynasty and Heart to Heart. So I thank them for letting me be a little unusual as a child. I mean, I also remember I would collect celebrity obituaries, which I think not most boys do. Maybe Matchbox cars or baseball cards, but I was clipping the obituaries. Already, I was like feeling a little upset that these people I watched on TV, like Ethel Mertz, and Jackie Gleason, that they were starting to die. I had a whole binder on all the Addams Family obituaries. So that, again, forced me to get out there. And then within a few years, I was writing celebrity obituaries of my own.
William, who would you like to meet or work with still, who's a celebrity or a acclaimed, let's say, actor?
You know, Gary, I am from a different time. And even when I was working for USA Today and I was on red carpets interviewing Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman and Johnny Depp, I mean, that was, sure, it was fun, but it could not compare, in my book, with having met Florence Henderson and Dick Van Dyke, the people that really shaped my little formative mind. And I met all of them. And the book, in the back of the book, is actually a photo gallery of all these reunited stars that I got to either, I was in attendance when they were doing a big reunion, or I got to a place where I was organizing cast reunions. And so it's really a photo album of all my TV families. And it's complete. I was really lucky that I really got to meet everyone that I could. I never met Lucy. She died in 1989. I moved to LA in 90. And it's certainly not a coincidence that her death caused me to switch colleges from the East Coast to the West Coast to get out here as fast as possible.
You know, I had the opportunity. I had the opportunity to meet Lucy.
Oh, tell me, Gary. Tell me. I can't get enough of these stories.
I was working for Deborah Lee Scott, who was doing Mary Hartman, and she did the last episode of the Merv Griffin show. And she took me backstage. She took me, and they put me in the green room, and I'm sitting there. It's like 6 o'clock at night. And all of a sudden, they bring Lucy in, and I knew who she was, and she was wearing, sunglasses. And I sat there, just me and her, and I was already working on Laverne and Shirley in different capacities before I became a writer on that show. And so I said, "Hi, Lucy," and she said, "Oh, hi." And I said, she says, "Who are you here with?" And I said, "Oh, I'm here with Deborah Lee." And she said, "Oh, that redheaded girl?" And I said, "Yes." And then we started talking about the entertainment world. And she says, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I work here and there, but I'm a writer and I wrote a script for Laverne and Shirley." Wrong thing to say.
Why?
She flipped out and said, "They stole my show. They were playing Lucy and Ethel." And I was like, "Oh my God, how do I save this?" And then she calmed down a bit and I said, "Can I get you some water or anything?" And she goes, "No, but is there anything to drink?" Like, I guess she meant a drink. And wow. And I think I was 22. I don't remember. It was young. And then I said to her, then she said to me, "Listen, kid, you got to save your money." She said, "Open a savings account." She said, "When I came to town, I put $100 and I was saving $5 a week." And she said, "Save your money." And I said, "Okay." And then they called her out. And they took her out to stage, and then I never saw her again because Deborah Lee did her piece, and then we left.
Oh my God, Gary, what a great story! I've heard several Lucy encounter stories. That's one of the best. I mean, I would have thought. Remember, she loved Three's Company. Lucy loved John Ritter, who was doing these pratfalls, but I guess it was too close to home. Two women like Lucy and Ethel getting into all these crazy situations. You know what? And I think she might be right.
Well, yes. I mean,
genius,
Cindy and Penny were doing Lucy and Ethel.
For sure.
And it was on Paramount lot. And it was so funny. I was able to get all the old episodes of, they were throwing them out. A guard had a vault that he used to show me because I would walk, I met everybody at Paramount. And so they were throwing out the original Lucy scripts. I had about 50 and I took them home because I didn't know, they're going to throw them away. and they had also press kits that went with them.
Wow.
And so
Wow.
I kept all of this for years. And then when I moved to Europe, I found a guy who was a Lucy collector, and I needed to make some money, so I had to go to France, and he bought them all for like $500 for the whole lot. I'm sure they're worth more now.
Yeah, but you needed the money then.
I needed to.
I do the same thing. Like, why did I not keep that longer? Well, that's when I really needed the money.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
don't beat yourself over that.
Yeah.
And then he got joy out of that. He sold it to other people probably who got
Correct.
joy out of it.
So I think these moments with celebrities are so great. That's what I love about your book, because I can totally relate to all of this. What would you, if you could go back in time and really history, and let's say meet a celebrity that you have not ever met, and meaning they've passed on the other side, that you didn't get a chance to meet, who would you want to meet, and what would you ask them?
Well, that's another great question. And I mean, the first thing I would have said was Lucy, but I will say that sometimes maybe you're not meant to meet your idols. Every story I've heard about Lucy is that she was quite cantankerous and had a very short fuse. You just told me a story right there about how she got upset. So I think maybe it's best that I didn't meet Lucy. Maybe Ethel, maybe Vivian Vance would have been great to meet. I did get to do a great sit-down interview with Lucy's kids, Desi Jr. and Lucy Jr., which was close to that world. But
what would you ask Vivian? What would you ask Vivian? What would you ask Vivian?
What would I ask Vivian? My gosh, I would say, boy, I think I would say, you know what? There was talk of a spin-off. When Lucy ended, they were going to spin off the Mertzes. And I think, as we've all heard, Vivian Vance and Bill Frawley hated the idea of working together again. He would have done it. She refused to be frumpy Ethel with him in any more episodes. But I think I would have said, if you had done that show, what would it have looked like, and how could you have made it work? And I guess you probably would have said in the first episode, Fred Mertz would have had a heart attack and died, and then they would have brought in Gail Gordon as my new husband. But yeah, that could be a fun conversation to have with her.
What do you think people's fascination with celebrityism is all about?
I think it's a common conversation that everyone can have. These conversations have been going on since the dawn of time. I'm sure that when the slaves were building the Great Pyramids, they were gossiping about Tutankhamun and Ramses and Cleopatra. They were the ones on the other side of the wall. We see this with the royals. Everyone knows about Diana and Charles and Elizabeth, and they're the common subject matter that everyone can kind of tap in to give their opinion. Not everyone knows about sports figures. Not everyone knows about scientists, Nobel laureate winners, but it seems like everyone has at least some knowledge of the celebrity, the royal, the king, the president. So I think that's part of it. And as we've seen so many times, we celebrate people's rise. And I don't know if it's a jealousy that our life is not as fabulous as theirs, but we also seem really drawn to their downfalls. I mean, we see this with Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez now, that we're all just kind of, waiting to find out when the divorce announcement is going to come. I don't know that we're all waiting, but I mean, it is something we're aware of.
No, well, I think the book is such a great read for people who are nostalgic and also remember all these shows. And if I said to you, what is the ultimate mission you have now in your life after this is like a healing, writing this book? What's the next? You've purged a lot of old energy. You've healed a lot of things within your own, let's say, aura and your vibration, your soul.
I've made amends with these celebrities.
Correct.
Many of them have written essays that appear in the book with their version of things. There's a lesson learned at the end of every chapter. So yes,
What's
correct.
next? What's next for William?
Well, I still have this love of nostalgia, and nostalgia in my mind has changed because so many people are gone. But I think there's still ways to celebrate the things that lit me up as a child. So I'm partnering with some of these people in we're planning projects that I can't quite talk about yet, but it would be a way to honor these shows and stars that are no longer with us in a new way. And so instead of me hiding in the bushes and stealing celebrities' garbage, I'm reaching out to them now to say, hey, listen, I love you. I love the mystique about you. Let's partner to work together to celebrate that and bring joy to people who, like me, can't get enough of you.
I think that is brilliant, William, and you're so great at all of this knowledge of information, and I think you're like archiving it for history in the books.
Thank you. And a lot of younger readers, they won't know who Zsa Zsa Gabor is, and they won't know who Tammy Faye Baker is. But in the beginning of each chapter, I relate it to today. I mean, with Telly Savalas, I mentioned him. I say he was Jennifer Aniston's godfather. With Zsa Zsa, I say she was the Kim Kardashian of her time, along with all of her famous sisters. So in the beginning, I spell out who these people are, and I think people will be able to get who they are and then enjoy the crazy journey that I took with these people.
Well, people can find the book at Barnes & Noble. They can buy it online, Amazon, and it's a great read when you step upon a star. And I can also attest that some of the stories are really great page turners. And you can go to @the_William_Keck at Instagram, where he can find you. You can find him.
Or you can actually have a website for the book, whenyoustepuponastar.com, which gives little previews. It gives some celebrity endorsements, and then also order information if you want to purchase a copy.
Excellent, William. Thank you so much. I could talk to you all day about all of this. Oh, my gosh.
I know, Gary. I can't believe a half an hour's up already. Thank you for having me on. I've really been looking forward to this. You're great.
Super. You have a great rest of your day, and I will see you very soon.
Look forward to it.
Thank you. I'm Gary Quinn. Until next time, be well.